Donkey Kong Bonanza. I've been playing this game since it came out, and I just been having an absolute blast. I mean, the game is bursting with creativity. It's what you'd expect from the same people that gave us the 3D Mario games. But I've reached a point in the game where I can tell that I'm close to the ending. I'm currently in the feast layer. It feels like the game's about to wrap up, so I wanted to kind of pause my playthrough and talk about my theories about how I think the game is going to end. Now, I knew going into the game, you know, with the rumor mill and all the theories and stuff people were talking about, that, you know, is Void Kong really the bad guy here, or could there be someone else calling all the shots? Before we get into it, just a quick spoiler warning if you're in the early areas of the game or if you've not even gotten the game yet. I am going to be showing footage of some of the later levels, like the feast layer, so be warned. But with all that being said, let's just get right into it. When I was writing the script, I had reached an area called the Junction, and I fought Void Kong. At that point, you know, you get the ape, zebra, and ostrich bonanzas, pretty much everything that was shown in the direct and in the trailers. I had no idea what I was about to experience next in the game. Even then, something was nagging at me since I started playing that I can't help wonder, is King K. Rool in Donkey Kong Bonanza? Now, I've reached even further into the game. I've gotten to the racing layer where you see Diddy and Dixie Kong. I think Dixie even references Donkey Kong Country 2 where her and Diddy have to go, you know, rescue Donkey Kong. But it's weird because I've gotten to this point and Void Kong, he is just harvesting these bananas and he has this wish, you know, when you get to the Bonanzium root at the planet's core, he has this wish that he wants to make come true. And it's like, what is this wish that he wants to do? And there are these points in the game where they show, and it happens right after the Junction, where they kind of introduce the concept of brainwashing. So there's like this flying thing called the Bluster Wing in the Tempest layer, if I recall correctly, the one with the elephants, and it got brainwashed by Void Kong because it has like this mask on it and it kind of messed with its brain. One of the eels that, like the dad eel, I guess, the one that like teleports or whatever, in the groove layer, he was also brainwashed, but you use the music to get him out of it. So now I'm thinking, like, what's going on here? Like, if King K. Rool is in this game, is he going to be like, is Void Kong going to wish for DK's worst enemy to show up and then King K. Rool just shows up out of nowhere? Or did he bring King K. Rool with him and brainwash him? Or there's also the concept of transformation with how Pauline transformed into the rock and then transformed back to herself. Did King K. Rool transform into Void Kong and he's about to transform back into K. Rool at the end of the game? Is that what's gonna happen? But yeah, I'm not really sure. But as I'm playing this game, I can't help but feel like there's something going on. There's something coming up next. And just the fact that Poppy and Grumpy quit the company and Void's by himself, it just makes me think this is not like a very stable company with stable relationships. Let's go back a bit though. So when you first boot up the game, you're greeted with this lone solitary room where, you know, you as DK have to go and explore this mining facility that, you know, DK is working at. And, you know, one thing turns to another, you fight your first enemy, which actually gets its own cutscene. And what's the cutscene? It's a resurrected golden crocodile. It's a croc, it's resurrected, it comes back to life. Now, you might write this off as, you know, it's not a big deal, but this was sending all kinds of alarm bells off for me. Why did this get its own cutscene? I mean, if you look at the 3D Mario games, you don't get a big cutscene when you fight a Goomba or a Koopa for the first time. So why is this run-of-the-mill enemy NPC that you're gonna encounter tons of times throughout the game, why is this getting its own cutscene? It low-key reminds me of George Lucas in that documentary where they made The Phantom Menace, and how he talks about, you know, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And it was in my head that, yo, the first enemy you fight in the game is a croc. Could the last enemy you fight in the game also be a croc? Perhaps the king of crocs, King K. Rool? If you're gonna start off the game with a croc, gotta end it with a croc. And I'm just thinking, like, if they do that, it'll be like when you replay the game, it'll be like, whoa, like the hints were there from the beginning. Like the first thing you fight is a croc. And then in the end you fight King K. Rool, boom. Now, let's talk about Cranky Kong and the various hints he gives out throughout the game. You encounter Cranky Kong pretty much in every layer of the game. When you first encounter Cranky Kong, he says he came down to the underground because he realized who stole all the bananas and that he had to come down to stop them, and that Donkey Kong was too busy on some side quest in some mining facility, and that it should have been him, but he hopped on Rambi instead to put a stop to it. Now what's interesting is, you probably already guessed it, he never names who he's referring to. He doesn't say it's Void. At first, while playing the game, I thought, this makes sense because you actually don't encounter Void until later of that first world. You find like all three of them together. You do see them at first when that drill they have is sinking into Ingot Isle and bringing it down. But from DK's perspective, he's not like even paying attention to that. He's like in shock. He's like, yo, what's going on? But you get that formal introduction to them later with Pauline. So it would make sense that, okay, Cranky Kong, he's not going to name Void because you as DK haven't really been formally introduced to him yet. But I don't buy that, because when you encounter Cranky Kong again, he still says that same dialogue and he doesn't say it's Void. The way Cranky Kong talks, by the way, about how he realized who was up to no good, it sounds like familiarity. It sounds like it's someone that he's dealt with and that you as Donkey Kong might have dealt with too in, guess what, previous entries. But Void is a new character, so it just doesn't make any sense. And I gotta say this too, I went to Resort Layer and there Cranky Kong, when I found him there, he says that the person who's doing this has these claws and all this gold on them, and it's just too extravagant and it's too gaudy. You think that he's talking about Void, because Void does have claws and he does wear gold. He got the gold teeth and everything. But this can also apply to King K. Rool, because King K. Rool has the gold crown and he has claws as well. It just, everything he says, if you play the game, you realize everything he says could very well apply to Void and King K. Rool. But there was also another one that caught my eye. This might have been in the Groove layer. I'll put the footage up later just to make sure, but he basically says that this villain is a menace to simians everywhere. Now, this is what really makes me believe it's King K. Rool, because if he was talking about Void, Void is simian. He is a monkey. He is an ape. He would be saying, this guy is a disgrace to simians everywhere. You're a disgrace to our species, the way you've acted, the way you've treated us. But that's not what he says. He chooses his words very carefully. He says he's a menace to simians. Why doesn't he say he's a disgrace? So yeah, that just caught me off guard. I don't think he's talking about Void. I think he's talking about King K. Rool. There's also some other hints that I'll put up on screen here that he says that it's all kind of like double entendres. Like when you first play the game, he's talking about Void. But when you beat the game and you replay the game and you see his hints, oh, he was talking about King K. Rool the whole time. So that's just how I'm seeing it so far. Now that I'm like close to the end of the game, and even when I was halfway through the game after you see Void at the junction, you could tell that he was acting strange. He seemingly doesn't give a damn about any of the other monkeys. And he was acting, extremely disrespectful, like I said, to those in the same species as him. Y'all saw it with the Elder, how he was acting out of pocket. Like, that's not how you treat someone in your same species. You don't do that. So there was this theory before the game released that, and I touched on this earlier, that Void is secretly King K. Rool. And, there's some merit to it. Like I said, look at Pauline. She was an Autorog during the beginning of the game. DK had no idea. The seal was broken, and then she transformed to her normal self. Look at DK. He's transforming throughout the game to ostriches, zebras, elephants, snakes. So the concept of transformation is baked into the game. It was introduced early on, and you're constantly transforming as DK, as the player character. So the devs, you could look at that theory of Void is going to transform into King K. Rool, or he was King K. Rool the whole time in disguise. The devs could have been priming us, as the players, to get used to the idea of transformation before they surprise us with, you thought you was the only one that could transform? Boom, the enemies can transform too. and that's when you get Void transforming to DK. And then, I mean, just off on a quick tangent, look at Super Mario Odyssey. You know, as Mario, you're throwing your cap everywhere, you're transforming into everyone, and then at the end of it, you transform into Bowser. So the idea of the enemy character, the villain, getting involved in the transformation as well is not completely out of the picture, especially with a team like this. There's also a Void's icon during text dialogue. You know, it gives King K. Rool vibes, especially with his eyes squinting, the yellowish whites, and just the crazed look in his eyes. But, you know, with all that being said, I kind of hope Void isn't just King K. Rool in disguise. I know I've been building it up this whole time, but I really hope that's not the case. I think he's a really cool original character. I like his motivations as like this company CEO, president, corporate crony capitalist, someone that'll do anything for extracting resources and spreading corruption in the environment for the sake of getting what he wants. And he'll step on everyone. He don't care if you his friend, if you work for him, he don't care. He gonna do whatever he wants in terms of getting his wish of just more. I mean, this guy is a crony capitalist down to the T. So I think he's a very cool character. And to kind of just, oh, surprise, you know, we put all this effort into making this really cool design and Void Coat and all this, and it was King K. Rool all along. Yeah, like it just undercuts it. I really hope that's not the case. If it turns out like, and I'm just saying that from the fact that if like he was King K. Rool the whole time, like that to me would be kind of whack. If he transforms into King K. Rool, or if he summons King K. Rool, that would kind of make sense, especially because I think in the Junction fight, he literally like says, oh, DK, that's not a name I'm gonna forget, you know, as if he's just now getting to know you. He's like, I'm not gonna forget who you are, bro. Like that doesn't really make any sense if he was King K. Rool the whole time, you know, so I don't really buy that. Yeah, I know a lot of people were clamoring for King K. Rool to be in the game, and yeah, I'd love if he was in it, but to be honest, again, I wouldn't mind if he wasn't. You know, new original characters like Void, Poppy, and Grumpy are all pretty awesome. But yeah, if you do a Bananza 2, and yeah, I do think they'll eventually make a sequel. I don't think this is just a one-off. Maybe they'll do a 3D Mario after this, and then Bananza 2 on the Switch 3, I guess, if we're talking Switch 3 at that point. Or if they want, they could just do a Bananza 2 after this and then save 3D Mario for the Switch 3. I know that sounds crazy and sacrilegious. No one even wants to entertain that possibility, but you know, I don't think this is a one-off. I think there's going to be more 3D Donkey Kong games, and they even said that in the Ask the Developer thing. They said, hey, we kind of want 3D Donkey Kong and 2D Donkey Kong the same way we had 3D Mario and 2D Mario. But again, I'm getting off on a tangent. If they do a Bananza 2, that's when they bring back King K. Rool, if he's not in this game. But with all that being said, I do think he's in this game. Come on, man. Cranky's hints, in my opinion, just give it away. He doesn't name Void, and the way he talks about a certain villain causing all this implies that it's a character he's encountered before, and you as the player, if you're a big Donkey Kong fan, may have encountered before as well. It just makes too much sense. And he's giving all these little hints, these claws, the gold, he's a menace to simians, he's this, he's that. It's just, are you really talking about Void? Or are you talking about someone else, bro? I think you're talking about someone else, bro. And just look at it like this. I know I just said, you know, they probably do a Bananza 2 or whatever, but look at it from the dev team's perspective. This was their one shot to make a 3D Donkey Kong game. When making this game, there was no guarantee that they were ever going to make another one, especially given how much people are clamoring and are always clamoring for a 3D Mario game, myself included. And, you know, especially with how time-consuming and expensive game development has gotten over the years. And that's not even mentioning the fact that they're taking a lot of risks with this game. I mean, there was no guarantee that the reviews were going to be as good as they were, or that the game would sell as well as it did. Just saying this out loud, I'm thinking about how when Nintendo was doing the Switch 2 tours back in April across the country, you know, in LA and New York, even overseas, of how like people play Donkey Kong Bananza, and I remember seeing Reddit posts of people saying, oh, like, I don't really like how this game plays, like, it kind of, like, is this it? Like, I'm just smashing stuff. Even when they showed the footage on Treehouse, there was a bit of concern people were sharing. People were saying, yo, this looks a bit monotonous. This looks a bit boring. There's a lot of just, you know, smashing, dopamine rushing. It just feels a bit too chaotic. And again, the game didn't really demo well for a lot of people. But once you actually play the game, I mean, before I even do my review, this game is freaking fantastic, bro. Like, this game is amazing. I'm not gonna lie, even starting the game out, it took me a while to get used to the controls. It's not your typical 3D Mario game. This was something else, so they definitely took risks with it. You know, given those circumstances, and coupling in the fact that apparently a lot of the younger team members of this dev team were apparently, you know, there's rumors, but apparently they were big fans of Donkey Kong Country. It's only natural for them to think, yo, if this is our one chance at making a 3D Donkey Kong game, if this is our one chance at not making a Mario game, we gotta go big or go home. You know, this may be our only chance to do a 3D Donkey Kong game, at least for the next maybe 5, maybe 10 years. So with that being said, we gotta go big or go home. Let's put King K. Rool in this game as the big surprise twist at the end. Like, that's how I would see it, just from a human perspective of, you know, not even considering what's in the game, but just, you know, if you're the developer, if you're making this game, why not show him in? Why not put him in? Why not? You know, there was a lot of people that wanted K. Rool back in, not really Donkey Kong Returns, but in Tropical Freeze. I remember people were hoping he'd show up there, but he didn't. Still an amazing game though. But yeah, especially after Smash Brothers, now feels like the time that you bring him back. And what I'm hoping they do, if King K. Rool is in this game and he does show up at the very end, and this is a theory I saw before the game came out, that he could be the chairman of the company. If not that, then maybe him and the other Crocs, you know, they make up the board of directors, and they've been secretly funding Void, but he didn't really know who was giving him the money. I feel like that would be a good way for the devs to do both. You know, introduce original characters with Poppy, Grumpy, Void, and you also pay tribute to the history of, you know, Donkey Kong Country, and show love to old and returning characters. Then in the next game, now that we've, you know, kind of reestablished 3D Donkey Kong, King K. Rool can be the villain from the start of the game. So that's kind of how I see it. Let me know what y'all think. I'm about to go edit this, post it up, and I'm about to go play the Feast layer. I'm pretty sure I'm at the end of the game. I mean, I got all the Bananzas. I've seen a lot of boss fights. I've seen a lot of music. I've collected like almost 400 Banandium gems at this point. Like, it's gotta be, I'm pretty sure it's about to wind down at this point. But hey, just a, you know, quick Hail Mary, if he's not in the end of the game, you know, maybe post-game, maybe he's like a secret post-game boss. But I don't know. The 3D Mario team, they don't really do stuff like that. Do they? I don't think they do stuff like that. I think Odyssey did have the whole, what's it called? That whole, like, you know, really, really hard, like, end world, but I don't know if there was a boss at the end of that, was it? You know, they have stuff like Champions Road, but there's not really any bosses, just like platforming tough stuff. So I don't know, we'll see what they do. And I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one, where hopefully I'll be doing a full review of Donkey Kong Bonanza. I kind of want to make a video just talking about the controls, because there's so many options. So yeah, we'll get into it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Take care, y'all.